When I was starting out as a leader and a speaker, I kept hearing this phrase: you've got to speak at a grade 7 level. It came from mentors, from seasoned communicators, from the books and the blogs that were supposed to help you grow your voice. I understood what they meant, but I didn't like it. It felt like they were telling me to play small, to sand off the complexity, to aim low. And for someone like me, a minority voice already pushing against expectations, that felt like a double bind. I was already fighting to be taken seriously. The last thing I wanted to do was to sound like I had nothing substantive to say. So I overcompensated. I leaned hard into depth. I used language that matched my education, that defended my seat at the table. What I didn't realize back then was that speaking clearly isn't the same as speaking simply, and speaking simply isn't the same as being shallow. One is about accessibility, and the other is about substance. And when you confuse the two, you start performing intelligence instead of communicating meaning. Clarity and depth are often mistaken as opposites, but they're not. They aren't even in competition. The best communicators know that clarity sharpens depth. When you strip away performance and get to the heart of what you're trying to say, what's left is often more substantial, not less. And what it communicates, often louder than the words themselves, is this: you matter enough to me for me to make this make sense. Because clarity is dignity. It tells the person on the other end that you see them as capable. You see them as curious and worthy of understanding, not just obedience. Some leaders use simplicity as a performance to code themselves as being of the people, while quietly reinforcing a sense of superiority. It doesn't always present as overly polished or rehearsed. In fact, it can sound casual, even relatable, but something in the delivery feels engineered. And for those who pick up on it, it doesn't register as clarity. It feels manufactured. Most listeners engage in good faith. They're not dissecting tone or analyzing phrasing. They're trusting the communicator to mean what they say, which makes it all the more important to use language that is clear, open, and truthful, even when it takes more effort. There's a tension between appearing relatable and being genuinely clear. On one side is the temptation to manage perception. On the other side is the harder road, saying what's true in a way that invites people in. That kind of clarity demands effort. It demands that you know your message well enough to speak it plainly without diminishing its meaning. Clarity isn't about ingratiating yourself with your audience. It's about building a bridge between your world and theirs, without assuming that they need you to dumb it down. In rooms where technical experts share space with people whose value comes from lived experience rather than formal training, something powerful happens. It's a collision of vocabularies and assumptions, but when it works, it's transformative. Some groups are designed with this tension in mind. Experts working alongside people whose lives have been directly impacted by the issue at hand. They may not hold credentials, but they hold insight. And so, to make these spaces work, experts have to shift. They can't just speak to each other, they have to speak to everyone. And that means translating, not watering down, but reshaping complexity in ways that still hold weight. It's slower, it's vulnerable, and it's worth it. Because choosing to translate your knowledge is an act of solidarity, not simplification. You're saying your voice belongs here too. When it's done well, decisions are stronger, conversations are more grounded, and the outcomes serve more than just the insiders. That kind of clarity isn't decorative. It is structural and deeply dignifying. Clarity isn't just a communication choice, it's a character choice. It reveals what you believe about the people you're speaking to. Whether you think they can handle hard news, whether you think they deserve context or just instruction, whether you see them as capable participants or a crowd to be managed. You see it most in moments of change, especially hard change. When the stakes rise, so does the temptation to reach for euphemism, to soften the truth, to avoid clarity out of fear that it might stir pushback, anger, or accountability. But avoiding clarity doesn't prevent those things. It just delays them, and it adds resentment to the mix. When we choose clarity, we're not choosing ease. We're choosing honesty. We're choosing to trust people with the truth, even when it's imperfect, even when it's hard. That's not weakness. That's leadership. Clarity doesn't mean reducing everything to a slogan. It means choosing language that lets people see what's real. It turns a directive into an invitation, a decision into something people can respond to with dignity, not just compliance. Your audience may not have your credentials. They may not have studied your discipline. But don't mistake that for a lack of capacity. Intelligence doesn't only live in degrees. It lives in how people connect dots, navigate systems, and make meaning in places that weren't built for them. Think of our education system. Before a child can reach calculus, they're taught the building blocks: addition, subtraction, multiplication, division. We don't simplify because we doubt their potential. We do it because we actually believe in it. That's respect. That's dignity. That's what clarity does. It doesn't condescend. It creates space for people to grow, engage, and understand without needing to prove that they belong first. Without getting lost in the politics or hindsight debates, the pandemic surfaced something essential. Communication in uncertainty matters. The science was evolving. The challenge was how that evolution was communicated. Leaders had limited information and shifting variables, but instead of being transparent, many leaned into confident sound bites. The message simplified, but it didn't clarify. It reassured, but it didn't respect. What was needed wasn't perfect knowledge. It was humility. A willingness to say, here's what we know today, and here's what might change. Instead, the tone often carried authority without transparency, direction without dialogue. And people didn't just feel confused, they felt misled. That mistrust didn't disappear, it hardened. That's why clarity isn't about getting the words right. It's about how you hold your audience in uncertainty and in complexity and in moments where the truth is still unfolding. It's about letting the light in, not casting more shadow. It's about saying, I trust you with this, not because it's easy, but because you're worthy of being in the loop. So what do we do? If you're in a leadership position, especially if you're navigating complexity, this is an invitation to rethink the role clarity plays in how you lead. Don't assume your audience can't handle depth. Assume they can, with help. Simplify without flattening. Remove complexity, not nuance. Ask yourself, am I being clear or just careful? When the stakes are high, prepare harder, not just to defend your work, but to translate it. Clarity takes effort. It also takes vulnerability. But it also communicates something powerful. I see you, I respect you, I trust you with the truth. Because clarity doesn't just pass along information, it affirms dignity. It says you deserve to understand, not just to obey. You deserve to be spoken to, not just spoken past. And the truth is, any message worth sharing deserves to be opened. Clarity is how you wrap that message. It's the fold, it's the ribbon, the gesture that says this is for you, not just to hear, but to hold. Not just to accept, but to wrestle with, respond to, and then carry forward. And if you're facing a moment where the message really matters, whether it's a shift in direction, a tough presentation, a high stakes presentation, a tough conversation, or a report that needs to land with meaning, Fathom It exists to help. We work with leaders and organizations to find the words that bring people closer, not push them away, to refine what matters, to speak it with clarity, conviction, and care, not with spin, not with noise, but with language that lights a path. Let's say it well, and let's say it in a way that lasts.